co-founded the Ethereum standard, and we're very, very, very lucky today to have Casey. Stand up, Casey. Casey created the Ordinals standard for Bitcoin, and for those of you who were in my session with David Pacman and Alex Atala, we agreed that there are so many more people trading Bitcoin than there are other cryptocurrencies. It's just wonderful to welcome the Ordinals protocol to our space. So over to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Got some technical difficulties.
Testing.
All right. Good afternoon. All right, my name is Mike Adler, and welcome to our panel discussion on Ordinals. Today, we're exploring the world of NFTs with a different twist, focusing specifically on the interactions within the Bitcoin blockchain. But before I introduce my panelists, I think Jody already asked, who in the room knows what an Ordinal is? Who actually owns Ordinals themselves? Hi. Good percentage of people here. So today I have the pleasure of introducing an extraordinary trio, Casey Rodarmor, Erin Redwing, and Raph. Together, they founded their own venture called Inscribing Atlantis, serving as consultants for artists and creators keen on utilizing the Ordinals protocol to inscribe data on the Bitcoin blockchain. Their mission is transforming digital art and other creations, which we're going to find out, into one-of-a-kind Bitcoin-based digital artifacts. So Casey over there is the founder of the Ordinal protocol and Runes. Seasoned developer, has been a prominent figure in the Bitcoin space for many years. He's renowned for the creation of Ordinals, facilitating the generation of NFTs on the Bitcoin blockchain. Additionally, he created Runes, which I'm going to ask him about today, which is an alternative to the BRC20 standard. So stay tuned, and we'll delve into the fascinating journey behind these groundbreaking decisions. Erin, she serves as the CEO of Inscribing Atlantis and the president of Open Ordinals Institute. She dedicates herself to fostering the sustainability expansion of the Ordinals ecosystem. She also co-hosts the Hell Money podcast alongside Casey. I spent the last 3 days watching every single one of them. Super entertaining.
I'm so sorry.
Absolutely. No, they're great. They're great. And then the podcast delves into the intriguing convergence of art, technology, and Bitcoin. And notably, Erin also brings this distinctive astrological perspective to the Bitcoin space because she is an astrologer. And last, we have Raph, who's the CTO and the lead maintainer of the Ordinals protocol. Passionately driving forward all the technical innovations when it comes to Ordinals. He's a crucial member of the Open Ordinals Institute, and he plays a pivotal role in shaping the direction of Ordinals. So my journey in the NFT space started in 2019. I met a company called Vivi, and I started helping them in the US. And so Vivi, we work with 200 of the top brands out there, Disney, Marvel, Lamborghini, and all that. But I really did not learn about Ordinals until last year when I discovered the protocol when I went to a conference, which is Art Basel in Miami, and I helped co-host an Ordinals conference with this group, and I was absolutely amazed at all the panels. Casey did a great job moderating, and basically delved deep into the Ordinal space, starting my own Ordinals Bitcoin collective with their guidance, and I'm excited to be moderating and sharing this with all you guys. All right, so now we only have 20 minutes, so we're gonna get this going. So let's dive right in and kick off. Okay, Casey. So can you explain to us what an Ordinal is? What are the benefits? What inspired you to develop the Ordinals protocol? Any challenges? Give us the journey.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, so around 2017 maybe, NFTs started to get super popular. Sort of the first wave of NFTs got really popular. And at first I wasn't like super interested. I don't really have like a collector's mindset. Like I don't collect like Pokemon cards or baseball cards or anything. So I was like, all right, whatever, this is kind of cute or whatever. And I was a long time Bitcoiner. And then I think it was in like 2019 or 2020 when art blocks started to become popular. And I thought art blocks was extremely cool, right? They're just like very cool images, very cool art, very thoughtfully done. So I've made some generative art in the past. And so I thought, okay, well, this is cool. There's a market for this kind of generative art that I like to make, but has never had a market before. So let me try to look at what it would mean to make a Ethereum NFT to like make and sell some art. I don't want to be like an ETH hater, but like the whole standard was pretty bad. The ERC 721 standard is pretty bad. The dev tools were really terrible. You just want to make a token, right? You just want to put some art on the chain, you want to send it around. You don't want to have to write a smart contract. Also, the standards for storing content on Ethereum are kind of weird. The content doesn't actually live on chain. It lives on something usually called IPFS, or even just like a normal web server, like www.amazons.computer.com, which is not a great way to store assets that are supposed to be on chain. So it's like, all right, I guess I have to try to figure out a way to do this on Bitcoin. The reason is because Bitcoin is very simple, Bitcoin's very secure, and I think for things like NFTs, it kind of makes sense to put them on Bitcoin because NFTs are sort of like a status good, like a luxury good, and Bitcoin is the oldest chain, it's the most valuable chain, it's the one with the most liquidity, so that just kind of made sense. Then I entered the like noodling phase, where I tried to figure out how to make it work. It's quite a challenge to do things on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does not have arbitrary smart contracts. You can't just write code and then deploy it to Bitcoin. So the process of building on Bitcoin is not so much just doing the thing that you want to do. It's trying to figure out how your idea can be adapted to the constraints of Bitcoin. So Ordinals and inscriptions, which are the NFTs, take a somewhat odd approach. One Bitcoin is subdivided into 100 million Satoshis. This is the smallest subunit of a Bitcoin. And Ordinals, which is the lower layer, assigns an identity and tracks all of these Satoshis through transactions. Because on Bitcoin, normally there's no account. You don't have like a single account that represents your identity. And these things called outputs, which is where Satoshis actually live, they're created and destroyed in every transaction. So what Ordinals does is it lets you track Satoshis across transactions and give them an individual identity. And then inscriptions are a way of including content, the actual like images or pixels or text or HTML or any kind of content in a Bitcoin transaction and quote unquote inscribing it on a Satoshi to create this sort of transferable digital artifact. Another important thing about inscriptions is that they're not all different, they're actually all the same. ERC 721 contracts, each Ethereum NFT is a implementation of the ERC 721 interface. But that implementation can be completely different. It can have like admin keys, it can have bugs, it can have all sorts of wacky, like people can create, I mean, not every contract, but you sort of have to audit each one individually. Inscriptions are not like that. There's exactly one implementation. They all have the same implementation. They all come into existence in the same way. They all transfer in the same way. So it's just sort of a more, let's say, simple and secure and hopefully long-lasting way of putting digital art on chain. In addition to the fact that the content is all actually on chain. And then challenges, yeah, I mean, it was tricky, it took a lot of work, a lot of programming. Fortunately, I found Raph on the internet. He used to be a German master's student, but he dropped out so that he could work on Ordinals. He's still German though. And yeah, it's tough, it's a lot of work. There was also a lot of hate. So when we launched, which was March 2023? January 2023. There's this huge influx of NFT users into the Bitcoin ecosystem and the Bitcoin space. And so there was a huge culture shock. Bitcoiners in general are very, very cranky. So they were not happy about these new sort of like JPEG traders coming and diluting their message about self-sovereign money, where you sit on your mountaintop with your gun and your dog or whatever, and you hold your Bitcoin. So there was a massive culture shock. I think they're still adjusting to it, but I think that was the main challenge.
That's great. So Raph, on your side, from a technical standpoint, can you explain the difference between the Ordinals protocol and how different blockchain protocols are using NFTs?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I've spent a lot of time with it. I used to be Casey's apprentice, programming apprentice. I recently graduated to become the lead maintainer. So I've spent a lot of time in the code and figuring stuff out. Casey already kind of summarized it very nicely. It's that we have a very clear implementation. We write all our code in Rust. It's a very nice language. It's very performant, and we just brought out this very nice kind of complete package. So we have this GitHub repo called Ord, which kind of packages all of the commands. It is a wallet, it is an explorer, and also an indexer. And the reason that it exploded and became so popular because it was very simple to use and to execute. We also, when we designed it, we tried to be close to what Bitcoiners value, which is running your own node, kind of being a real participant in the network. So in order to kind of use our software, you have to download Bitcoin Core, like sync the full node, and then you have to index. So all of what this led to was like all of these new nodes coming into the network, like new economic, like actual people who use the network. And I think we saw an influx of at least 5,000 new nodes or something in the first couple of weeks, like just people in our Discord trying to like set up nodes to get in, because the only way to use it at that time was through our software. So people were like frantically following into running Bitcoin nodes, which is very beautiful to see. So I think that's kind of the big factor that made it very popular. Just very easy to use and instantly usable.
Okay, great. Erin, a couple of questions here. Can you explain what the Ordinals Institute is? What's the mission of it? And then what inspired the team to create Inscribing the Mantis, and what type of clients are you looking to work with? For the most part.
Yeah. So the Open Ordinals Institute is essentially just the nonprofit foundation that pays Raph. So before Ordinals popped off, Casey was just paying Raph and formerly another apprentice before him just out of his own pocket, just hourly coding help. And so then once Ordinals got really popular, it didn't seem like that made sense for Casey to continue to do. There were a lot of people that really wanted to donate and contribute to the protocol that they launched whatever they launched on. And so just for kind of keeping things simple legally, we decided okay, let's just form an entity so that these aren't just random Bitcoin donations going to Raph or Casey or whatever, just to keep it kind of all contained and simple. So we don't do anything else with the nonprofit. There's no Ordinals Foundation, there's no plan to build out, the future of the internet or anything like that. We just want to keep it simple, because I think that's what makes Ordinals great, is that it's exactly what it says it is, It's not over-promising, it's not saying that it's going to be something that it's not, it's just a protocol that works the way it should work. So that's kind of the nonprofit side, and then, over time, obviously, there's interest in kind of helping, especially artists, come over to Ordinals. Anyone who's tried to inscribe coming from Ethereum or Solana or somewhere else, they've probably had the experience of realizing oh my god, I can't even do the size image that I want to put on here. If I drag and drop my JPEG onto here, it's going to cost me $50,000 to inscribe it, right? So there's kind of a lot of technical hurdles that anyone who's trying to create on Ordinals has to overcome, unless they're a very specific style of artist. So essentially, we launched Inscribing Atlantis to sort of work with artists in that way, and kind of bridge the gap between the people that know the tech the best and then the people that want to create on it. So that didn't make sense to go under the nonprofit, obviously, because we just want to keep that contained and to be what it is. So we then ended up sort of launching a for-profit venture for that. But Yeah, I think like now that the protocol is kind of in like a final state, it makes it easier for like Raph to spend time doing stuff like that rather than, you know, building new features on the protocol.
That's great. All right, Casey, so let's talk about what's coming next. So as a Bitcoin, as a leader in the Bitcoin ecosystem, the upcoming Runes protocol launch has garnered substantial attention. Can you explain how you came up with Runes? What are they? What are the benefits? How will they interact and play with Ordinals? And what does phase 1 look like? Because it's coming up.
It's coming, yeah. Pretty soon after we launched inscriptions, maybe like 2 months after, we started noticing on the homepage of Ordinals.com. Ordinals.com is the Ordinals and Inscriptions Explorer. It's open source software, so what you see on Ordinals.com, you can run on your own computer if you just download and run Ord. So we started seeing on the front page of Ordinals.com a ton of JSON inscriptions, these funny text inscriptions that are not really there. They don't look like much, and we saw a lot of them, like millions upon millions upon millions of them. And it turned out that somebody had written a fungible token protocol standard called BRC20, which is kind of similar to Ethereum's ERC20 fungible token standard, on top of inscriptions. So these JSON inscriptions were actually BRC20 protocol messages describing how these fungible tokens, these BRC20 tokens, are created, transferred, and minted. And there were a lot of them. I think at this point there's been like 70 million inscriptions, and maybe 90% of them are these JSON inscriptions. So I had sort of never been interested in fungible tokens because they're 99.999% like scams and Ponzi's. But BRC20 kind of offended my aesthetic sensibilities. It was just like so bad, it was so ugly, the protocol was like so fragile. So I was like, all right, I guess I have to do something about this. So I created a competing protocol, a fungible token protocol called Runes, which is not based on or related to Ordinals or inscriptions. It's a very simple fungible token protocol. Think ERC20, but for Bitcoin. So I started working on that like 5 months ago? September. We finished the last version of Ord, the version of Ord that has the final version of the Runes protocol, maybe 4 or 5 days ago. And it's going to go live on the halving on Bitcoin block 840,000, which is like April 20th. And it is, I think it's going to be absolute like bedlam and chaos. There's a lot of appetite for fungible tokens, and there's a lot of appetite for a good fungible token protocol standard on Bitcoin. So I think there's already a lot of like people are pre-degenning on Runes. Like Runes don't exist yet, but they're like, oh, I'm gonna make a Rune and I'm gonna airdrop it to you, like once Runes goes live. Like the level of pre-degenning is really impressive. It's a very simple standard. You pick your name of your token. Unlike ERC20, all token names are unique, so you can actually uniquely identify a token by its name. Unlike ERC20, where you have to identify it by its contract hash. So token names are unique. Tokens can have open mints, where you can say, okay, I want there to be, a total supply of 21 million. And up until that supply cap is reached, anybody can create a transaction that claims 1,000 of that coin until the supply is minted out. So this is a distribution mechanic that was made very popular by BRC20. People love it. People love free money. People love degenning. People love low friction degeneracy. So yeah, that's Runes. It's going to launch on the 20th. And I think it's kind of a final piece, but close to there are very few use cases of arbitrary smart contracts that have really gotten a lot of product market fit. Like if you think about them, there are NFTs, there are fungible tokens, and then there's AMMs and liquidity pools. So I think that bringing inscriptions to Bitcoin, brings NFTs to Bitcoin, and bringing fungible tokens, Runes to Bitcoin, is the second of those three. And AMMs are something that I'm kind of pretty sure are going to be solved in a different and interesting way on Bitcoin. So I think it's sort of one of the final pieces, filling in the final missing pieces of Bitcoin's functionality for the crypto degenerate use case. So it's exciting.
The core kind of runes protocol is completely independent from Ordinals, but there is some interplay between them. So in Ordinals we have this kind of method called parent-child provenance, which allows you to kind of build this tree of relationships between inscriptions. So you can kind of imagine you have a parent, which kind of represents an artist, and then they create the art underneath it, and then you can kind of go to this parent and you can see all the art that has been created by this artist. And this is a very primitive thing, so you can build these kind of trees of relationships. And with runes, we have also like enabled this interplay where a rune, like when you kind of create this rune, is what we call an etching, you can also specify a parent. So when you then go to the runes page, you can see an inscription as the parent of the rune. So this way we kind of are connecting ordinals and runes in a very nice way, and we hope people will get creative and kind of build these really cool structures with runes and ordinals.
Yeah, and inscriptions, so inscriptions can be arbitrary HTML, so that means that they can contain JavaScript, they can be any sort of content you want. And inscriptions also can access other on-chain content, so inscriptions can read the content of other inscriptions, and they can access a limited API. So this API that they access, it only provides data that's on-chain, so it's not data that can go away. And so probably we're going to, well, definitely, we'll make it so that inscriptions can access, how many runes are on a particular address along with the inscription. So you can build like weird gamification. You could have like a Pokemon inscriptions, and then you can have your Pokemon rune, and then if you have enough of the Pokemon rune and your Pokemon inscription, it gets shiny. So yeah, look forward to degeneracy such as this.
Like on-chain Tamagotchis or something like that.
All right, so we got a couple more minutes. Erin, just want to give you an opportunity to give a plug for Hell Money, your podcast. What is what's coming up? What's the next episode? What are you guys looking to cover? I think you're shooting today, right?
Yeah, we're shooting today, which is why we're dressed this way. Hell Money is my podcast with Casey. Raph's coming on for this episode as well that we're recording. It's loosely like a Bitcoin education podcast. We started it before Ordinals, so it's obviously kind of pivoted in like an Ordinals direction as Casey became like the Ordinals guy. But yeah, it's available wherever fine podcasts are sold. We don't.
Hell.money is the domain name.
Hell.money is the domain name. That was very clutch to get. We don't, we don't have sponsors or anything like that. It is truly just us firing off the dome, whatever we think about anything. And I think, I wanted to start it with Casey because I just think he has a lot of good thoughts on Bitcoin and he has a lot of interesting perspectives, and I think that comes out in the podcast, as well as the costumes, obviously.
So in the last 35 seconds, Casey, what's next? What are you thinking about beyond runes? Come on, there's got to be something else.
Yeah, no, I am.
That's why I gave you 24 seconds. That's why I waited to the end.
Let's go. Yeah. So, peer-to-peer file sharing has declined enormously. BitTorrent is probably the most popular way of trading files online. Unfortunately, its UI is very, very bad. So my next project, I'm working on it now. I'm just going to make a better file sharing program where it's like Spotify or Netflix, but everything is free. And no blockchain, no crypto, because it's not needed. Yeah.
When's that going to be done?
Maybe like a year.
That's good. That's great. And then I have one other question. This is for you too. What do you think will be the most unexpected build on the platform, on runes or ordinals?
Most unexpected what?
Unexpected build in the next 5 years.
Unexpected what?
Build.
Like what
I
people...
know right now, yeah, but what do you think the most unexpected, what is someone to build? Meme coins and all that. Like, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I think like AMMs, like some sort of like online pool of market makers that you can sort of function like a Bitcoin AMM. Should be very fast, should be very high liquidity, low fees. I think it is possible to build, and that is what I'm most interested in people doing.
And beyond art and collectibles, are there any other use cases for the platform?
Runes, stable coins, anything that you want to do with stable coins, with tokens you can do with runes. So all of the stuff on Ethereum.
That's great. Guys, thank you very much for letting me hang out in Scribing Managers' office for 25 minutes. Casey, great stuff.
Awesome, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm